Hi, Tom.
Hi, Nick.
Second Six Nations for you.
Given the nature of being a test coach as opposed to a club coach, how easy is it to improve a team's scrum when you're having so little time together? What are your priorities coming into this championship, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so look, I think you could sit here and say you have no time, but you make excuses. I think the test coaching allows you to concentrate on the main things, the main building blocks. I've been fortunate enough we've got some great coaches in the Premiership. With certain individuals in certain clubs, I've worked very closely with improving players that we've seen as potential coming into this campaign or the next in. So we've been making constant improvements around their scrum, and we're starting to see that in training. So yeah, there's some improvement being made. But the big things again for us is that there's building blocks around how we get to the contest to make sure the ball comes into the scrum so we can compete.
What are the referees saying to you this week? Do we expect to see anything different in the way that they're looking at the setup of the scrum?
Not to my knowledge. It'll be very similar to how it was refereed within the World Cup. We had a call with the referee department and all the Six Nation coaches, scrum coaches together, just to make sure we're all aligned and understand how it'll be officiated.
And when Steve says this is what I want my England scrum to do, obviously it depends on where you are on the pitch. But what's the essence of England's scrum in Steve's mind, in your mind?
So I think, like I've said this before, the scrum has got to be ruthless. It's got to be a pressure building scrum, and there's ways of building pressure around providing a platform to play, and that builds pressure. Winning penalties to move up the pitch, and I think your whole concept of the scrum should be around how much pressure you can build, and that's the way we've been looking at it.
And give us a few words to sum up Italy's challenge at the scrum tomorrow.
I think you'll know, Casada came out and spoke about how the historically competitive Italian teams had a strong scrum. So I have no doubt that the challenge he's put on his forwards coaches is to produce that. So I'm sure there'll be a great contest tomorrow.
Great, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Worked very closely with Jamie George as in your role as scrum coach. What's his captaincy been like? Has it changed the atmosphere at all? Or what's his style of captaincy that you've noticed?
So I think he's brilliant at understanding individuals, understanding how to get the best out of individuals, and connecting with them to make sure that we all go in the same way. I think the point to add to that is that there's great leaders in the group. There's great leaders in that forward pack. You have Ellis, you've got Joe Marler, you've got Dan Cole with experience, you've got Marrow. Benel is really stepping up in those sort of domains and driving certain areas of the game. So I think he's been brilliant in being the figurehead and overseeing, supporting the new players in the group. But I think in terms of the shared responsibility of that, and those players I've just spoken around, especially for the forwards, they've been exceptional.
And Will Stewart's in at tight head. Can you just give an appraisal of what he's done to secure that jersey? He wasn't used so much during the World Cup, but here he is starting.
Yes, I think Will's one of the players who's always been competing for a place. There was never an easy selection when we go back to the World Cup. And I think since we've come back, he's really seized his opportunities at Bath. He's competing hard at Bath, and you can see where they are in the league. And based off that scrum, I think they went 5 games back to back after they played Ulster, where they won 100% of their ball and gave away no scrum penalties. And you go, well, that's for a tight head prop, that's the cornerstone of your game. So we've seen some real development in how he's applying his scrum and his elements around the park and how he can ball carry. He adds that extra dynamic. So I'm looking forward to seeing that tomorrow.
Just on Will, obviously everyone knows that it takes more time for props and front rows to kind of hit their peak than some other positions. I mean, do you think this is maybe his time when that sort of maturation point can start to come through in the next couple of years? And like you say, we've already seen lots of fruits of a lot of labour, haven't we? But is this kind of a really key time for him in the next couple of years?
Yeah, look, I'd say he's got 33 caps already, so I'm not saying he's new on the scene. We're acting like he's never played Test rugby. He's an experienced Test campaigner. What I would say is, you're right, it does take time to mature. I can definitely see him maturing, progressing.
And in terms of, you touch on Ben Earl and how he's sort of, coming through as a leader. I mean, that must be, that's massive for, I suppose, the environment as a whole, isn't it? Because not so long ago that he was struggling to force his way in. And he obviously played so well at the World Cup. But if you've got a situation where people who haven't been in the team for that long can actually feel comfortable to take, to grasp things and take them forward, I assume that's exactly what you want as coaches.
Yeah, you want players seizing opportunities and really taking those moments when they come to you. There's credit to him as an individual and how hard he's worked at his game. Obviously, we know the story how he's been in and out and round, but how he's come in and started to solidify his place within the group and develop his game has been huge credit to him as an individual.
And just on the scrum generally, I know you say you expect to see more of the same, but you've made a lot of progress, haven't you? And I know you obviously talk about wanting that stability in contest. Do you see that happening more with other teams as well? In that, are other teams doing the same thing? You spoke before about not chasing the hit or those sorts of things. Do you think that's becoming more of a trend across the board? And then hopefully we see more, one good scrum contest, but two more scrums that actually end in play rather than resets and penalties and free kicks?
Yeah, look, there would be a very, very low percentage of props who want reset scrums. I think we, as a rugby base, we have to start to love the scrum. We've got to love the fact we want to get to the contest and appreciate the battle and the pressure and the physical demands that go on there. And I think it should. I know I love it, but I think it's something that needs to be appreciated more. I think we spend too much time talking about removing the scrum from the game. And actually, there's an element there that it creates space in the game because players fatigue. It swings momentum because suddenly you lose a penalty. It builds pressure to move teams up and down the pitch. I think if media, coaches, players, fans can get behind it, I think you start to see a change of the scrummaging culture within the world.
Hi. Good morning, Coach. Moreno from Sky Sport Italy. Considering your starting front row and the front row you're having on the bench, and the fact that Italy is having injuries and relatively inexperienced props in the bench, do you consider the scrum area one of the key for tomorrow's game? Do you want to try and put a stamp on the match, maybe also, and particularly on that area? Grazie.
So I think, firstly, issue of naming strong players. Daniello at loosehead prop has been in the Premiership for many years when he was at London Irish and caused many problems, so I wouldn't say that they are completely under strength. I appreciate what you're saying around the tight head side. I think in any game as a scrum coach you want to put a stamp on it and attack the scrum, and I think you have to have a ruthless and efficient scrum to compete and win tournaments like the Six Nations.
Okay, thanks, guys. We're going to bring Ben Earl in straight away. Tom,
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.